actually sound British because I don't sound like Crocodile Dundee or Steve Irwin's. Not as much power as Disney movies make you think. And then maybe in 7 days you might not want to kill them. Maybe you still want to kill them. Laugh about all the foreigners' stupidity. Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, I am Yvette and I moved to the UK in May last year. So it's almost a year soon, getting close. And I'm documenting my experiences. After living in the UK for, what are we talking about, 8 months-ish, 8-9 months, and having a lot of my family back home, and I Skype them obviously regularly, but I've noticed a few misconceptions that they seem to hold about the UK and life here. So I thought, I kept going over with so many different people, I was like, you know what, this would be a great video. So I wanted to sit down and do a video, and then if you're from the UK, you can laugh about all the foreigners' stupidity, or if you're thinking of coming to the UK or you're from abroad, then you will not look a fool by learning all the correct nuances of the UK life. So enough introduction, we'll get into it. The most common misconception I seem to get is the metric versus imperial. I've mentioned this as a frustration of mine, is that you guys don't seem to commit to a single, like you kind of mix and match, which is interesting because my mum's the same way. My mum measures things in stone, which is, I've never learnt stone. For this video I did homework, I'd researched it. So I finally learnt how many pounds are in a stone and all that jazz, so can't say these videos aren't good for anything, for those wondering. It's 14 pounds is in a stone, I think. Using miles and kilometers, so if you're talking to someone, I'll be like, oh, they'll try and tell me it's X amount of kilometers, and I'm like, oh, but they use miles here, so, or like I'll say how many kilometers something is, and then they'll say, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. So I've had to kind of learn miles, and to be honest, I don't really know them that much because it's not an easy conversion, it's like point something. So I just halve it basically, so, which I know is not right, but I'm like, I think I'm under rather than over. So if it's 40 miles, I treat it as if it's 80, which I don't think right, I think it's more like 60. Who knows? I just drive so that my speed on the car matches the sign as I'm driving, but so many misconceptions that people think the UK is metric, because Europe is metric, but it is not. The UK is higgledy-piggledy. Gotta learn both, which is good, I always think. You see, more education. A lot of people think the Queen is like, has ultimate power. That isn't the case. She's almost, I don't want to say she's a figurehead, because she does have some power, so she can like veto anything out of government, she can dismiss the entire parliament, I think she can fire ministers, she can go to war, she can do all these things, but she won't because it'd be so much civil unrest, so it's kind of like, technically she has power, but realistically she won't exercise any of them because it'll upset the public and then you a revolution on your hands. So, so the Queen, I would argue pretty much predominantly her biggest impact would be for tourism. Obviously she has power and she does other things, but the amount of tourism dollars that come, because if you're not from the UK, or even if you're from somewhere other than London, you'll probably come to London because you want to see the crown jewels, Buckingham Palace, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's the Queen. And then I think if you extend to the other royals, like they obviously have their duty, I think they do something with the military, but realistically they're not going to put a royal in the line of fire. That's too much power in the enemy's hands. But they do a lot of charity work, which I do appreciate, so just raising awareness and then helping out at certain charities and supporting them in that way, which is always good, but not as much power as Disney movies make you think, you know? That's where the medium is. Another big one, and this is from Americans, is that Americans seem to think that the UK and Australia have 0 guns, and the UK and Australia are pretty similar. So America thinks the UK and Australia don't have any guns because of how outspoken we are about gun law and that, particularly Port Arthur in Australia. That's not entirely true. We do have guns in both countries. However, in the UK, you can't get semi-automatics, same with Australia. But in terms of like, there are a lot of farmers in both countries, and farmers need guns to do their job. So they can get it, obviously. So the farmers do need them to do their jobs effectively, for whatever reason. I'm not a farmer, but I do know they need them. Yeah, but you can't, I think, I don't know if this was in a film or if it was fact, but I think there was something about you have to wait 7 days before you can have your gun. That's like, so if you buy a gun if you're angry because you found something out and you're like, oh, I could kill someone, and you go buy a gun that you have to wait 7 days to calm down, and then maybe in 7 days you might not want to kill them. Maybe you still want to kill them. But at least there's that step in the process. And then there's also no semi-automatic. I think there's I'm not a gun expert by any means, so do not hold me as such. However, I think there's a limit on how many like bullets you can have, all that kind of stuff. And you have to sit a course, and you have to have a license as well for all of them. So it is still very possible to get a gun if you're a gun head, go to town. But there are just some rules that make it a bit safer, and they basically translate to Australia as well. But I know a lot of Americans seem to think there are no guns at all. Generally in London, like in a city, you'd have no guns, whereas in the countryside, that's where they are, because that's where the farmers are. But the UK, London has all its knife crime. However, the knife crime seems to be, from my very limited experience, mostly gang on gang. So like if you're just a normal person going about your normal business, you probably won't get stabbed. No promises though. Who knows? I think this next misconceptions one that I think a lot of you get annoyed about actually is that people seem to think that the whole of the UK is only London. So when I travel, I know that to you guys I sound Australian, but to people who don't, to non-Brits, I actually sound British because I don't sound like Crocodile Dundee or Steve Irwin, so they assume I'm not Australian. So they think I'm British. Even I had a skydiving instructor in Canada who lived on Australia, and he thought I was English. I was like, what are you talking about? Like he lived with us, but he did live in Queensland, which is basically the Steve Irwin accent. Anyways, when I travel, people think I'm British, and they'll say, oh, are you from London? Not from England, not from the UK, not from anywhere. I would love to hear what a Scottish person's experience would be, particularly traveling somewhere that does just seem to think London and the received pronunciation accent's the only accent. So if you're Scottish or Northern, I'm talking Liverpool, I'm talking Manchester, Newcastle, give me a Geordie accent. Tell me what Americans, where they think you're from, because I don't think they would guess that you were British first, from my experience. But I could be wrong. People seem to say, oh, I'm going to London, I'm not going to the UK or anything. So they just seem to think the whole kingdom is just London, which if you're not in London, which most of you guys aren't, can be quite frustrating. I even know I get so many comments on my earlier videos of people saying, get out of London, see the rest of the UK. And I'm like, do you know who I am? I also do travel stuff. So like, I like to travel around. Of course, I've been outside London. London just happens to be the workers, unfortunately. Next one will surprise no one, but people think it rains all the time. And depending where you are in the UK, it does rain a lot. However, it kind of conflicts with my previous point. So people think London's the only place, but then they think it rains all the time. It doesn't rain that much in the south, and definitely not in London just because of where we are geographically. But obviously Scotland, Newcastle, it does rain quite a bit more than down south. But according to the people who are saying that it rains all the time, they don't really count that as like the UK. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't have both. You gotta pick one. Obviously, I've said this in depth. I love the UK weather. I feel like it's not too extreme, it's not too cold, it's not too hot, it's just pleasant. You can always be comfortable. You're never like absolutely dying, and you're never absolutely freezing, When it gets to a certain heat, you can only take off so many layers, and when it's so cold, like you just have to like wear a balaclava because it's just the air hurts your skin, which was me in Finland in -20. So UK, always easy to feel comfortable. I recommend. I do have a question though. When I was in Australia, I had all of the weather apps because I like tracking it, which makes me very British, I know. But I had an app from the Bureau of Metropolitan, the BOM, B-O-M, website, Bureau of Metropolitan. Oh my god, why can't I say that word? Anyways, and that had a radar, and it was really great because you could see like if rain was coming, how heavy it was going to be, and also wind direction. I haven't been able to find a good one for the UK for this. I just want a radar app or website even, because let's be honest, the weather app lies. It tells me it's going to be fine, and then I go on a run and it's an absolute downpour, and I'm like, where did this come from, weather app? And then the BBC weather is not too bad. I just would love a radar. So please, if there's any other weather watchers out there, tell me what your weather app to go to is, because I really need one. The other stereotype that the Brits seem to get is that you all have bad teeth. You guys don't. I don't know where this started. Also, it's so silly because you guys have, I wonder if you guys were the first people to have universal healthcare. I don't know who the first was, but you guys obviously have universal healthcare, and like that covers dentistry compared to like the stereotype comes from America because they've all got like veneers and perfect teeth, and they obviously don't. So it should be the other way around. It should be the country without the healthcare system should be the one with bad teeth, but that's not the case. But yeah, Brits don't have bad teeth. Got, I would say, perfectly average teeth in a good way, you know? I don't know why whenever I film, Bambi's like, now's my time to run around and make as much noise as possible. That tapping is her. She's not doing anything valuable, she's stiffing the ground. But she has been asleep for the last 5 hours. So yeah, average teeth in a good way. So when I think of like bad good teeth would be like those really big fake veneers and they look, you know, Love Island, we've all seen it. The people that go to Turkey and get like big fake teeth. I think that's like good bad teeth or bad good teeth, you know? And then there's obviously bad teeth. Everyone's teeth here are normal. So good work with that one. I'm so sorry that your reputation has bad teeth because I don't see it. I mentioned this in my previous video, but a common misconception about the UK is the breakdown, which is, I mentioned this in my things that annoy me about the UK video about people being so quick to call me out when I was just like making a simple error and not giving me the benefit of the doubt of knowing what the United Kingdom is versus Britain versus Great Britain, that kind of thing. So the reason for that is because a lot of people don't, and I understand that. Particularly, I think even like Trump, of all people, like the president of the United States made a mistake by saying the wrong one. And like, if the president is making that error, like what good is the average person gonna have? You know what, I was gonna say if there's anyone watching from the US or outside the UK, I've actually met a lot of UK people that don't know the difference. So I'm gonna run through it really quick. 1, to help you in case you don't know, and 2, to prove that I do know. Great Britain is made up of the countries England, Scotland, and Wales. And Scotland and Wales both have their own government. So, you know, there's the, I think, is it the United Scotland Party? There is a Scottish party. They have a lot of opinions. They won most of Scotland, actually. So they're both countries. They're not, and then England's its own country. So they're all different, but they're all under the same umbrella. Then the United Kingdom, which, by the way, kingdom is such a good word. It reminds me of like Disney. I love it so much. But yeah, so the United Kingdom is everything I just said plus Ireland because it's a different landmass. But then if you go, but then there's also the Channel Islands and the Islands of Man. I'm gonna have to read off the list of the islands because, to be honest, I'm not an expert on this one. So it is Jersey, Guernsey, Alderney, Sark, Herm, and the Irish Sea, Isle of Man, and the Irish Sea. Those islands are not part of the UK, but they recognise the Queen as their leader. It's kind of like Australia, but a bit less removed, because you're closer physically. But then, if you go even further out, there's the British Isles, which is everything I've said. You've got England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Isle of Man, all of the islands I just said, Guernsey, Jersey, Jersey, blah, 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 and the Republic of Ireland. So even though people often will, I know Irish people get quite annoyed when they say that Ireland's not part of the UK, like the Republic of Ireland, it is part of the British Isles. So there you go. Quick, brief geography lesson with me. And I've learnt the names of the Channel Islands because I didn't know. So there you go. So that was some of the common misconceptions my family and friends have and people I work with or comments I get from Americans. So I thought I'd make a video clearing everything up. I hope you enjoyed it. My shout out of the week goes to Brian O'Keefe. Thank you so much for watching, Brian, and thank you so much for sharing my videos on Twitter. You're always there to comment and reply to me and I love it. If you would like to be a shout out in my next video, make sure you share this video on your social media however you would like and make sure to tag me. All of my socials are below. And then next time I could be saying your name. But yes, for now, thanks Brian. I love your name, O'Keefe. I hope I'm saying that right. Keefe. Keefey? Keefe. I think it's O'Keefe. I bet the E's silent, surely. I'm so sorry. It's the thought that counts. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and remember to hit subscribe so I can see you next time. And if you don't want to miss any videos at all, you can ring the bell as well, so you'll make sure you get notified, because sometimes subscriptions are funny. But yeah, I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.